Drew, thanks. Oshkosh residents have been asking more questions about their safety after several recent weapons-related incidents. Tonight, Oshkosh police are putting numbers behind those concerns. They say weapons-related calls are up 60%. That's just so far this year, and they're changing how they respond. Samantha Cavalli spoke with Police Chief Dean Smith about what officers are seeing.
For people who call Oshkosh home, safety is personal. And after several weapons-related incidents, Police Chief Dean Smith says he knows some residents are wondering how safe their community is.
We have to deal with perceptions of the community. Do you feel safe in the community? And we want to work hard to try to change that perception. That's what people ask of us to do.
Smith says the department started seeing this trend during the winter, when calls for service usually slow down, and began planning for what spring and summer could bring.
It could be that it wasn't a call for a weapon, but it turned into a weapons call. It could be a felon in conviction of a firearm. It could be a disturbance that we found that a firearm was involved in it. That would be included in that data.
Records obtained by Action 2 News show Oshkosh police reported 35 weapon violations from January through May. But Smith says the department's bigger concern is the calls for service trend. From January 1st through mid-June, officers responded to 40 weapons-related calls, a 60% increase from the same time last year. Gun-related calls are also up 25%. Those numbers come after incidents such as a woman allegedly firing a gun after a fight at Pollock Pool and a 17-year-old bystander being shot during April's unsanctioned pub crawl event.
There was a large expense of resources, close to $50,000 that were spent for pub crawl to try to keep the community safe during the event. It was a lot of work going into that.
Now police are responding with a street crimes enforcement initiative, putting extra officers on overtime in weekend hotspots. They're also adding patrols near bars at closing time and assigning weapons cases to detectives. Smith says the goal is to be visible before something happens.
We've stepping up our patrols, and we're actually having directed patrols to try to be a presence out in the community to hopefully change impressions that our community isn't safe.
Smith says police will keep using data to decide where extra patrols are needed most, and he says residents can help by reporting suspicious activity. In Oshkosh, Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.